If you have an adolescent or teenager, you know that they can be very vocal with big, intense emotions one day and stoically shut you out the next. They make disagreeing with you an art form. They desperately need you, but they work so hard to make sure that you don't know it. If you've traditionally supported your child with learning or attention challenges, you may find them rejecting your help as they move towards the teen years. Today, we're talking about understanding and communicating with adolescents and teens. This is LD Expert Live. The adolescent and teen years seem to be full of landmines, but having grown children myself, these years are also full of wonder as you watch your child change right before your eyes from little kid to adult. In spite of slammed doors and the silent treatment, it's so much fun to see your teen be kind to an unpopular student or become a leader at school or have a deep, intriguing conversation. If you have a teenager, share in the comments or the chat what you love about parenting a teen. Welcome to LD Expert Live, your place for answers and solutions for learning differences, dyslexia, and attention challenges. I'm your host, Jill Stowell, founder of Stowell Learning Centers and author of At Wit's End, A Parent's Guide to Ending the Struggle, Tears, and Turmoil of Learning Disabilities. This book will help you understand why some bright children and teens struggle in school and what can be done to change that permanently. To get a free copy, go to parentsatwitsend.com. Let's say hello to Lauren and all of you joining us in the chat today.
Hello.
And there she is. Welcome, Lauren.
Hello to everyone who is watching us live. Let us know that you're here by posting in the chat and let us know where you're watching from. We love to see all the places all over the country where people are viewing us live. Post your questions and comments today for today's guest and for Jill, as well as your response to our viewer question, what do you love about parenting a teenager? This Thursday is our PEACE meeting. PEACE is our parent support group. We meet once a month to discuss all things related to learning and attention challenges. This month, on Thursday, June 17th at 5 p.m. Pacific time, we'll be discussing processing skills. So auditory processing, visual processing, memory, attention, processing speed, all of those underlying processing skills we'll be discussing and doing some demos to give you a chance to tune up your processing skills. So I would love for you to join us. I look forward to seeing you. In order to participate in the meeting, to get your questions answered, you do need to register. Go to stowellcenter.com/peace to get the Zoom link to join the meeting. I look forward to meeting you all. And go ahead and post again your questions and comments for today's guest, and we'll check back in a little bit.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. If you're just joining us, this is LD Expert Live. I'm your host, Jill Stowell. Our guest today is Kent Toussaint. Kent is a licensed marriage and family therapist who specializes in helping kids, teens, and families live happier lives. He leads two organizations, the Group Private Practice Teen Therapy Center and the nonprofit organization Child Teen Counseling, both in Woodland Hills, California. In addition to therapeutically supporting families and training other therapists to work effectively and compassionately with kids and teens, Kent can often be found offering humorous and informative presentations on parenting to schools and parent organizations. A great thing to keep in mind. Welcome, Kent.
Hi, thanks, Jill, for having me.
Oh, it is great to have you. You know, from speaking with you earlier, it is obvious that you really love working with teens and helping parents understand and connect with their teens. So what is the story behind that?
Well, I've always been a child at heart. I've got a fun imagination. And when I was going through grad school and learning to be a therapist, I thought I'm going to be a couples therapist because that was a lot of my experience in therapy. And then I kept having experiences as a therapist working with kids and teens. And I thought, this is a lot of fun. I like this. And eventually I got some wonderful mentors who helped me along and helped teach me how to do it. And eventually people started noticing me as, oh yeah, you're the guy who works with teenagers. I'm like, I guess I am. And so I just, embraced it. And I've loved it ever since. I love the challenge, the creativity it takes. Because working with a 14-year-old is much different than working with a 44-year-old, because the 44-year-old made the appointment. They're happy to be there. The 14-year-old, on their hand, there's often this resistance, and you have to work through that resistance to really earn their trust. And that's an exciting challenge.
It is. And having now worked so extensively with parents and teens, are there just some general things about teens that parents need to understand?
Oh, there's lots. I think we're always kind of learning and growing our awareness. I think, I know this goes without saying, but, our kids are people too, with their own feelings, their own emotions. And so often when we're parents, and I'm a parent too, and I've been guilty of this as well, we're so busy doing for and doing for and doing for. When our babies are babies and toddlers, we're doing for our kids. And eventually our kids, we have to start doing things with them. We have to start collaborating with them on what they want, what they need. Because when they're 3, we just kind of, all right, I'm going to give you lunch. Here's your lunch. As the 13, they're going to want to have some power in their lives. And the more we can help nurture a sense of a voice and a sense of agency in their lives, I think the more we can help foster more connection between us and our kids. Connection is a big, I preach this all the time, connection. And connection is not about love. We all love our kids and our kids love us, but connection is something different. Connection is that thing where we feel trust, we feel safe with that person. And that is done through communication, through sharing experiences, through empathy. It's not through a screen. It's not through a phone. It's not through video games. Now, we live in a digital world. We all have our own phones. We're all in that space, and kids are too. But it's really important, and I'm sure we'll kind of go into this in more detail as our conversation goes on. But finding ways to limit screens to nurture other activities that help us connect with our kids.
Wow, that was a lot packed into that. That was fabulous.
And I'm just scratching the surface on that.
Yeah, I know. I heard you mention, toddlers, and I've actually heard that. I've heard people compare teenagers to toddlers and say they're kind of similar in development. Would you say that that's true?
I think so, Jill. I think there's so much brain development happening for a 2-year-old, let's say. And I have a 2-year-old right now. One of my kids, my youngest, is 2. And there's so much brain development popping in their heads. Mm-hmm. And according to the scientists, there's almost just as much brain development going on in a teenager. Now, teenagers more verbal, more empowered, there's a lot more going on, but so much the prefrontal cortex, which I'm sure you talk to your families about all the time, this executive functioning of the brain, right? Mm-hmm. Impulse control, emotional regulation, the ability to see cause and effect, all that is impaired in a teenager. It's not their fault. It's just biology. And that's not fully developed until the kid's roughly 25 years old, roughly. So that's why, if, you want to rent a car, you've got to be 25 years old. I mean, there's right. Areas of this industry that understands this. And so we have to make sure that while sometimes our kids act like they're 25, 30 years old, they're still 14 or 15, and they still need guidance and boundaries through compassion, through empathy, but they still need those boundaries to keep them in a place where, they don't go out of bounds too far.
Mm-hmm. And, if you think about a toddler, well, they're so little, and we know that their brain has got to ton of development going on, and there are a lot of things that aren't developed yet. But our teenagers, they look so grown up, they
Yeah.
want to be grown up, and yet, all that development in the frontal lobe, which is where all the decision making and all those more adult-like skills that it sort of seems like they should have because they look grown up, but all of that is still really developing, kind of in disarray at that point.
So the way I imagine this analogy is, the limbic system is a part of the very primitive part of our brain, which handles primary emotional stimulation, anger, fear, excitement. That's all at full blast on a teenager. That prefrontal cortex is not. So imagine this limbic system is a herd of wild buffalo stampeding through the plain, and the prefrontal cortex is a little old man with a stop sign, and there may be something in his head saying, I should not do Minecraft right now. I should do my math homework. But the stampede is saying Minecraft. And so when you go to your teenager and say, why are you not doing your homework? Why are you on Minecraft? And they give us those 3 words. We all know, I don't know. Because he doesn't know. He didn't think about it. It just didn't register enough in his brain. And that's why I think kids will need boundaries. They will need guardrails. But much like a referee in a soccer match, if someone goes out of bounds, the referee doesn't get mad and angry and start shaming number 23. They just goes, all right, blows the whistle, turn over, there's the ball, just take it easy and just set the boundary without shame, which is something that's hard to do because we get frustrated because, parents come home from work, we're tired, we're frustrated, we still got to get dinner ready, get the laundry done, got to call the electrician and the dermatologist and you got to get your kids, can you just sit down and eat or brush your teeth? I don't know about everyone else, but brushing teeth at the end of the day is just herding cats in my house. I've got 4 kids and so trying to get everyone, can you just brush your teeth, right? I'm sure other people can relate to this. But kids and especially teens, their brains will get locked into other areas that are preferred activities, and brushing teeth is not a preferred activity. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that analogy with the referee because you're right. Referees, they show us the boundaries, but they're pretty objective about it. I mean, they're not shaming you for it.
Right.
And that's kind of I like that.
But parents are people too, and it's hard for us to be objective all the time.
And we've got a real strong emotional connection there, which makes it harder on both sides.
Yeah. Can I tell another story?
Yeah, absolutely.
So getting back to connection, what we were talking about before, everyone here watching, I assume, has had a boss or several bosses in their lives, right? You've had bosses that you loved and bosses that you hated. And so this is about, again, connection. So imagine you're in the situation where you got the bad boss. You don't like this boss. This boss is yelling at you all the time. This boss is throwing you under the bus. The boss, if you've got a good idea, this boss takes the idea, takes his or her own. It's like, you just can't stand this boss. Well, this boss comes to you and says, hey, Jill, we got a big sales presentation. You need to come in on Saturday to finish this up. And you're like, I need you there at 9 o'clock. And you're already going, I got a sore throat. I don't know if I can get in, right? And then if you do show up, you're probably 15 minutes late and you're on Indeed.com looking for another job. And you're just you're not giving your all for that boss. Whereas the boss that mentors you, the boss that when you mess up, the boss helps you. All right, let's figure out how to remedy this. How do we grow from this? How do we become a better professional from this? That boss that helps pick you up and helps nurture your career. Well, that boss says, hey, Jill, we got this big sales presentation. I really need you here on Saturday. And you say, you got it. What time? And the boss says 9 o'clock and you're there at 8:45 and you stay late and you do a great job because you're connected to that boss. And I think as parents, we are more than our kids' bosses. We are their mentors. We are their parents. There's the emotional connection that they have with us that you will never have with another boss. I mean, not to get too psychological, but we always carry our parents with us internally, in our psychologically. Sometimes that's a positive, sometimes that's a negative, sometimes it's a little bit of both. But we have an opportunity to really help shape the mindset of our kids the rest of their lives by them feeling connected and safe and fully accepted at all times, even when they mess up.
Right. And, as kids start to become teenagers, when they get into adolescence, it feels like, man, as a parent, I kind of had this figured out, and now all the rules are changing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I think parents, and you may have some insights about this, don't even feel like they recognize their kids anymore. They felt like wow, I have this really great connection with my kid. And then as they move into adolescent and teenage years, it changes.
Yeah. So a big part of an adolescent's developmental process is identity. Who am I? How do I fit in? Who am I to the world? Who am I to others? Who am I to myself? And if we can imagine identity as a hat, the first 10 years or so of life, they have one hat, a hat you gave them. And then they hit 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there and say, I'm going to try a different hat. I like this kind of music instead. I like these friends. I want to wear these clothes. I, have these political opinions. I have these religious thoughts, beliefs. And they try on all these different hats, which can be really scary for parents who say, no, I want you to be like me. I want you to have my values. But I think what's important to recognize is none of us have the same values our parents do. I mean, we may have similar values as our parents, but none of us have the exact same values as our parents. But I will say this, once that kid hits 25-ish or so, they create a patchwork of all the different hats they've worn the last 25 years. They put it on their head. And here's the good news. The biggest patch is the patch you gave them because you've been with them the whole time. Mm-hmm. And it's up to us to make sure that patch is a healthy patch that is accepting, that is nurturing, that is loving, that is filled with, joy, that your kid feels like you enjoy being with them. I remember I had this one kid many years ago, and they wanted their kid to behave better. And I was talking about, well, I think we really need to make sure that there's more connection. And I was trying to get this, he really wanted to connect with his dad. He was like 12 years old. He just idolized his dad. And he wanted to watch football with his dad. I'm like, all right, we'll watch football and you guys watch. And the dad would get upset because this kid kept asking questions during the game. Like, well, that's him trying to connect. And the dad just couldn't understand. It's like, don't talk during the game. I just want to watch the game, which was a missed opportunity. And this dad never really understood that this kid really just needed to connect with his dad. And I think it's important that we recognize that sometimes cleaning the dishes can wait. And I know that's hard because we want a clean kitchen, or, hey, your show can wait, or you know what, you're going to get an hour less sleep tonight. But having that time to connect and bond with your kid is going to make such a huge impact, because when they're 16, you no longer have control. You can't control a 16-year-old. If they want to leave the house, they're going to leave the house. If they want to smoke weed, they're going to smoke weed. You can't stop them doing it. You can't chain them to the dining room table. But having that connection, that trust, gives you more influence. And that's what we want to nurture, is the influence towards your teenager. Because if you have influence, they'll listen to you more. You can't, if you're trying to control, they'll slip through your fingers and they'll fight the authority every step of the way.
And I think a big part of that as they become teens is listening. We want so much to tell them, like we want to give advice, but I think that's a time where we really have to listen.
Yes, it's a great point, because our kids will come to us with problems, and the trap we fall into is, hey, well, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go and talk to your teacher. You're going to do this, and the kids glaze over like, and the example, it's kind of a cheesy example. It's a kind of a gender stereotype, but it applies to a lot of people. Not everyone. There's exceptions everywhere, of course. But you get, Jill, you and 4 of your girlfriends go out for appleteenies somewhere and you're having a great time, you're talking, you're complaining about your husbands and your jobs, you talk about your kids, and it's just a big support fest. You guys are just, you're complaining about something that's really upsetting you, and your friends go, "Oh, Jill, you're so strong. I wish I could be as strong as you." And it's just support and validation and appleteenies, and it's a great time. Whereas me, and if I go out with 4 of my buddies and we're going to the sports bar and we're eating hot wings or whatever we're doing, if one of us brings up a problem, we're expecting solutions. You give me solutions. I want solutions. Now, of course, the solutions won't be good enough, but maybe, Steve's solution's really good, until I try it and it doesn't work out. But, men have this way of thinking of, we want to solve the problems, and women are together, they want to support. Where when our kids or teens start complaining about problems, we go into that dad, husband, male role, and we start trying to solve the problem. For example, Jill, if you come home from work, you've had a tough day, the computer is not working, the accountant's giving you wrong information, just like the dog puked on the rug, the kids are fighting, you burnt the lasagna, it's like, you've had one of those days. And your husband comes home and you start venting, complaining to your husband, and then your husband start trying to solve all of your problems, and you want to punch him in the face. And he's like, "What? I'm the white knight here. I have the white cowboy hat. You brought me problems. I'm bringing you solutions." That's that. And you're like, "Don't tell me what to do." And the same thing with our kids is they don't want to be told what to do.
Yeah.
So when our kids talk to us, it's important that we bite our tongues and get big ears and just listen. And when our kids say, "Mom, what should I do?" It's a trap question. As you should turn the question back to them and say, "Hey, I hear you saying you want me to give you advice. Do you really want advice, or do you just want me to listen?" And they say, "No, Mom, I want advice." "Okay, this is my advice." And you give them your advice from a place of compassion and empathy with no expectation that they will follow 1 cent of it. And just
Right.
give them advice and let it go and let them learn from their experience. Because most times, like if you were complaining to your husband about those things, the solutions to all those problems, you're just frustrated. You just need someone to listen to you, put their arm around your shoulder and say, "I understand. I love you. It's going to be okay." It's hard to do that with our kids. Because again, like I was saying earlier, we're constantly doing for our kids. And now we're transitioning to listening and doing with our kids.
So often teens interpret what their parents say as judgmental, and maybe it's all wrapped up in what you just talked about, that we're so busy trying to help and give advice that it doesn't come across right. But that does seem to be an issue, that kind of no matter what you say, your teen can take it as though it's a judgment.
I think a lot of that comes from their own self-judgment too. I mean, being a teenager it's such an insecure time in our lives. I mean, all humans have insecurities. You don't grow out of it. You don't get fully secure when you're an adult. You still have insecurities. You're just better at dealing with it usually. But when you're 14 or 16 or 13, all these judgments, we can externalize them and project them and feel like other people are judging us. So, the kid goes to the new middle school or the new high school, everyone's looking at me. Everyone sees every pimple I have. Everyone sees every wrinkle in my shirt. Everyone sees, oh my gosh, they see what I see, which they don't, but teenagers don't often recognize that. And they'll project that onto you as well. Everything. You've wiped their bottoms. You've helped them when they were sick. You've been with them the most intimate, most sensitive, most vulnerable times. And so that vulnerability is scary because they want to be strong and because they don't feel strong. And so a lot of kids will put on a crusty shell and get bravado or, whatever it is, and just, feel like they're really strong. Or others will lash out with anger. And I think it's important that when our kids lash out at us, we don't take it personally, because it's not about us. It's really about them. And if we can stay calm and loving, eventually our kids will get it. It just may take some time. But I think what they're trying to do unconsciously, I don't think they're aware of it, is they're trying to pull you into the fight. They can pull you into the fight, and they can focus on you and say, "See, it's not my fault. It's Dad's fault. It's Mom's fault." It's them. It's them judging me. I'm the victim here. I have righteous anger now, and I can focus on them and not my own self-reflection.
Very, very interesting. So earlier you mentioned devices, phones. I feel like that has made it more difficult for families to engage with each other. How do you get kids off their phones without ultimatums and making them angry and feel like you don't understand them?
That's a big question.
That's a big question.
Because there's nothing more fun than a video game. Nothing. There's nothing on earth that's more fun than a video game, or that's more enticing as social media. It is designed that way. Food is not as interesting. Going to grandma's house for Thanksgiving, playing, basketball in the front yard, going to Disneyland, there's nothing. They are designed to be nothing is more fun than a video game. And I'll explain why. So everyone who's watching, I want you to imagine right now your favorite TV show or favorite book or movie or sporting event. I want you to imagine what that is. And now I also want you to imagine that you are the hero of that story, that game, whatever that is. You're Michael Jordan, whoever it is. So you're in that world. Now you're living this world. When you're playing a video game, you are sucked in. Even if it's not VR, you are sucked into this, and there's nothing else around you. So you're in this, and you're there, and someone rips you out of there and says, "I need you to go scrub the toilet." No, I'm not doing that. Forget that. No, I want to be in this world where I'm throwing the winning touchdown, where I'm the hero of the story, where I'm the romantic lead, whatever that is. So you have to understand that we're adults. These are kids who still have developing brains. We have to understand that these things are powerful. Another example is food. All of us adults living in America have a weird relation with food. We've all been on diets. We've all failed our diets because we're impulsive with food. You may have the thing where you're on a diet. All right, I'm going to fit in those skinny jeans. I'm going to eat, we're going out to dinner tonight. I know the menu. I'm going to get the kale salad with the roasted mushrooms and the lemon juice on it. And I'm going to eat well and I'm going to do great. And you go there and it's your anniversary night and they got a special lobster ravioli. Oh my gosh, I love lobster ravioli. It's my favorite. Well, it is your anniversary. Okay, I'll get the lobster ravioli. Oh, they have crab cakes too. Oh, they make them here. How often do we get crab cakes? All right, let's get crab cakes. Oh, look, the bread is here. Fresh baked. Oh, I'll have one. No, you have 7, right? And then you're like, well, kind of messed up our diet tonight. Let's get dessert. Let's get the chocolate lava cake and the ice cream because we're getting decadent tonight, and gobble it up, and it's delicious. It's fantastic. And then Saturday morning rolls around, like, let's make pancakes. Let's get donuts. And then Sunday rolls around for dinner. I don't feel like making dinner. Let's order pizza. And your diet is shot, even though you had full well, you were determined to stay on this diet. And we've all done this. And again, it's that impulsiveness that we all have. And teenagers, their impulsiveness is through the roof. So imagine video games are like a brownie sundae, right? You want him to do his homework, but there's a brownie sundae everywhere he goes. He can't escape brownie sundae. It's right there. He's going to eat the brownie sundae because as soon as the brownie sundae is done, a new one pops in there. He's always going to have another brownie sundae. So if you're expecting him to say, all right, just have one brownie sundae, then do your homework, there's always another brownie sundae. So we have to make sure that there's no brownie sundae in front of him. For example, self-disclosure, the way I limit my ice cream intake in my house is I don't buy it. Because if it's not in the house, I won't eat it. But if there's a pint in the freezer, you're darn sure I'm going to eat the whole pint because I want to get out of the house as fast as possible, which is not logical, of course, but it sounds really logical at the time. So it's important that we think we've set up some, you're not going to get your kids off screens. They're digital natives. They're born into this. They've probably had screens since they were 2 or 5 or 8 years old. You're not getting them out of their hands now, but you can limit. And the way I would limit is set some times where there's no screens for everyone. That includes you too. If you say, all right, you have to be off screens, but I'm going to be here doing my emails, they're going to see all kinds of hypocrisy all over that. So it means you have to turn the TV off, turn the iPhones off, turn the tablets off. Everything's got to be off for this time. And maybe that opens up time to play a board game together. Much like before we had data and Wi-Fi and all this stuff, if there was a blackout, you'd light candles, you order pizza, and you pull up the Monopoly board, and you're like, wow, we should do this more often. This is great. Power goes on, you turn the TV back on, and you forget about Monopoly night. But if we had that time where you guys are, baking cookies together, taking the dog for a walk, playing a board game, doing a puzzle, planting the garden, doesn't matter what you do, it matters that you do. You start developing more connection, more shared experiences. And some of you will say, well, I want to have this, my kid wants me to have the shared experience through the game. And you can do that, and it's better than nothing, but it's triangulated through this video game. And they get a lot of screen time anyways. Excuse me. So, and also there's a whole thing of how screens can affect kids, their sleep patterns, their irritability. I mean, many of you have probably seen your kid be on screens for a long time, get off, say, oh, hey, dinner's ready in 5 minutes. Oh, I don't care about dinner. It's like, whoa, we're just talking about dinner here. It's 7 o'clock dinner time. I'm not trying to jump down your throat, but they're just so angry and upset. And because video games can stimulate your body in a way that, danger can happen. Like it stimulates your brain. Your brain can't, the unconscious is not differentiating between real danger and pretend danger. It's all this danger. But in the real world, if you had that kind of experience, you'd be running around and jumping and throwing things, and you'd get all that energy out. Where when you're playing video games, you're just in this little controller or mouse and keyboard, and you're not getting that energy out. So that energy stays in you, and you're just angry and anxious and miserable. So I think it's important to have downtime with video games and social media, and also make sure that it's off at least an hour, preferably 2 before bedtime. And I know that's kind of hard, because many of you say that's the time they have after homework. They have like 2 hours after homework before they go to bed. And that's something you have to work out with your kid, how you guys manage that. And every family's going to do it differently.
Mm-hmm. But that's great advice. And thinking about the fact that it's summer, or most schools are out now. So this is actually a good time to think about, what is our screen time going to look like in our family for school? And really think about it carefully, collaborate with your kids, but get it all set so that when school starts, because school is certainly different than summer. Not that you want your child on it all day. I think it totally makes sense to have times of unplugged time every day set in there. But around school, it becomes trickier with homework and all of the other things. So this is a good time to get that set and not spring it on the first day of school.
I agree, Jill.
Yeah. So, well, let's check in with Lauren and our viewers, and then we'll see what questions and comments are coming up.
Hello, I can relate to everything you're saying, Kent. Let me tell you about that diet. We also, and I don't even have teenagers, but the idea of asking anybody, do you want comfort or do you want solutions? We do that a lot here at work with our staff and everything like that. So that's great advice. We have Mandy checking in, from Arkansas. And she says what she loves about parenting a teen is she loves that they can actually participate. We go fishing and they can hold their own pole, they can roast their own marshmallows, and that's great. Yeah. And we have Angelica saying, as a stepmom of teens, there are many ups and downs, but I love the little things, like when we can enjoy a movie together or when they want a second serving of a new recipe I've tried. So those are great things to think about when we're talking about parenting teens. So again, parents, post in the chat what you love about parenting a teen. And then I do have a question from a mom who wrote to me in Mom Squad. And she's asking about kind of the fine line between setting boundaries and allowing your teen to express herself. She has a 12-year-old, so she's saying she's not even a teenager yet. But, I mean, I don't know if 13 is the definitive age or something like that. She says she has gone through puberty and, but she's 12. She just turned 12 and did COVID, did the online schooling, and that was a really hard time for her, just being on a screen, being isolated away from friends. And throughout the year, her daughter gravitated more towards kind of a look of like Gothic, is what she describes. We have a store here. She says she wants stuff from Hot Topic, which is a store we have in California that kind of has this punk Gothic look. And so her sweet little 11, 12-year-old started to dress like this, and wanting these clothes and asking for things from the store. And mom is having a hard time with, is that a boundary I should set, or is that something that's innocent and it's just part of self-expression? She would like your advice on that.
Okay. I think it's a great question. And like a lot of parents struggle with this. I'm of the opinion that we should allow our kids to express themselves as much as possible, as long as they're not hurting themselves or hurting someone else. I think all of us have at least one yearbook picture with hair that we regret. That's okay. We've somehow survived those things. I think the more you fight that expression of identity, the more they're going to want it. You limiting it is not going to make them go, okay, well, I guess it's not me. I think if you let them do it and they experience and they go, all right, let me try this instead. Your daughter may go through several different styles through her adolescence, and allowing her to explore those may help her figure out who she is, so she doesn't have to do that in her 30s or 40s, which we don't want to start trying to figure out identity when we're older. We want to do it now. Now, one thing I would recommend, this is kind of a tangent, but I think applies here, is an allowance. I think all teenagers have an allowance. Number one, I think it's really important to learn how to manage money. You don't want to send your 18-year-old off to college not having a clue what money is or how to deal with it. So let's say your daughter really wants to do the goth makeup, get the hair done, wear the clothes. Fantastic. So you set her up on an allowance, and this allowance is like, hey, you can buy whatever clothes you want. Like what I'll say what worked for me when I was a kid, and I love this system. This really helped me a lot. Is my parents said, once you're 13, you have this much allowance. You buy shirts and pants. They took care of jackets and shoes and socks, and anything, the essentials, underwear. But I was in charge of my shirts, my pants, any fun money, and I had to budget. And that means I had to make some choices. Do I want this outfit, or do I want to go out this weekend with my friends? I can't do both. So I got to figure this out. So you want to figure out how much money your kid needs to support this that is reasonable, but with making some choices. And some people will say, here's your allowance, just, because you're my kid, and there's your allowance, and that's that. Other people say, hey, I'm tired of nagging you about these 5 things. So we're going to set up an allowance for these 5 things. And so, everything is time sensitive. Take out the recycling, make your bed, brush your teeth at night, and walk the dogs, whatever it is. And each thing is worth $1 amount. And each thing's time sensitive. If you don't walk the dogs on time, you don't get paid. There's, no makeups, no exceptions. It's black and white. So at the end of the day, if you did everything on time, you get a bonus. And again, what this monetary value is going to depend on your family and what you feel is appropriate. At the end of the week, you tally up all the dollars and the bonuses, and all right, you've earned this much money. Now, if you've picked the right incentive, first of all, for 3 to 6 weeks, they're going to tank. They're going to do horribly, and just let the money do the nagging for you. Because if they really want this money to go buy those really cool jeans that are $80, eventually they're going to have to I need to take out the recycling so I can get those jeans. And when you give them the money, you don't raise an eyebrow, say, you could earn 25, you only had 16. What's going on there? You give them the small amount. Here you go. Let's get lunch. Don't comment. Don't raise an eyebrow. Let the money do the nagging for you. And this allows your daughter, to go and buy, let's say she goes and buys a $200 pair of dry clean only jeans. Just smile and say, wow, they look great. Don't Say, what are you doing? Dry clean? Do you know what just let her have it and let her do her own laundry and let her ruin them. We've all done this. We've all had this experience of ruining something we really like because we didn't really pay attention to the washing instructions. And now we wash appropriately. This is how we learn, through these kind of natural consequences in life. Giving her the responsibility to pay for her own eyeliner, or if she wants to get her hair dyed, like you'll pay for the regular haircut. If she wants the extra stuff, well, that's on her to pay for it, and figure out what that is. And she may determine, it's not worth the money, or she may determine, wow, this is worth it. And thank you, Mom, for letting me be me. And that may help you guys become closer, because if you don't let her be her, then she can't, then there's not a safety, it's a trust issue. She can't trust you to accept her for who she is. So now she has to pick and choose what she says. And now she's got to go to her friends for that stuff. And if it's something sensitive, you really want to go to you. This is the long-winded answer to this question. I hope this helps.
Absolutely. That's great advice. I think really helpful to a lot of parents. I mean, I think every parent is going to go through that at some point, and just what do I allow and where is that? But bringing it back to, you want to be a safe place for your kids makes absolute sense.
Yeah,
absolutely. So keep posting questions and comments, as well as the response to our question, what do you love about parenting a teen? And post in the chat, and we'll check back in a little bit.
Well, you mentioned, Kent, that kids will end up going to their friends if they, feel like they're not fully accepted. So let's talk a little bit about the role of friends for teens, because we have parents who are distressed because all their teen seems to care about is friends. And then we have others who are really worried because their kids don't have any friends and aren't very social.
So you've got two sides of a pendulum, right? The healthy place is somewhere more in the middle. If your kid only wants to be friends, I don't care about my family, there's a problem, because there needs to be connection with family. Family is the core, and friends, in my opinion, are the satellites. They're great. It's great to have them, and it's important to have them. But when things, get heavy, it's important that they feel safe with their family. And I think having that nurturing relationship is important. On the flip side, the kids who don't want to leave the house, don't want to go anywhere, that's the problem too, is they need to have that social interaction, because that helps them figure out who they are and how to be in the world. They're going to have some friends, they're going to lose some friends. We've all lost friends. We're going to get heartbreaks. If your kids start dating, they're going to get their heart broken. We've all had our heart broken. It stinks, but it's part of life. We all have to learn how to manage that. We can't protect our kids from those things. So I think it's important that, number one, I think having a really strong, healthy relationship in that family helps kids reach out to make friends. It's very nuanced and complicated, and there's nothing perfect, and you can do everything right, and your kid could still screw up, because humans are humans. But I think it's really important that we help our kids feel safe in the home, even if their opinions, their outlook on life is different than yours. I think we have to make sure that, pressuring them to say, hey, don't think like that, think like this, is not going to change anyone's mind. Like, it wouldn't change your mind, that kind of pressure. So it's really important that even if your kids have, let's say you're a Democrat and your kid's a Republican, or vice versa, whatever it is. Oh my gosh, my kid's a Republican, or my kid's a Democrat. What are we going to do? It's okay. It's okay that we can have this kind of dialogue and acceptance, even when we disagree. How do we disagree agreeably, with respect, with compassion? I think that's something that's been lost in the media for several years now. I think a lot of people will agree with that, but then we fall into it anyways. Excuse me. So we want our kids also getting involved in activities, and your kids may say, I don't want to get involved in anything. If you limit the video games, it may open up space. So, all right, I'll do Lego robotics, or I'll do speech and debate, or I'll do chess club, or, it doesn't really matter what it is. It just matters that it is. And because we want our kids to eventually, because it's important that kids have something to push away from. Being a teenager means you are pushing away from parents. That's normal. They didn't do that. They never leave the house. And we do want them eventually to leave the house and live a productive life. But they need something strong and stable to push away from. If they do, they can come back to it. if there's nothing there that they can push from, they just kind of wander and spin around. And that's when they're more in danger of latching onto the unhealthy friends who are saying, oh, well, I smoke weed, it makes me feel better, you should smoke weed too, there's nothing wrong with it, it's all natural, which is not true.
Well, thank you for all of that. And again, I love your analogies, just knowing we have something they're going to push away. So something, strong that they can push against.
Strong and safe and steady, reliable,
Yeah.
Mom's boring, but mom's always there. We always,
Right.
mom's there. Okay. You're not going to enjoy everything your kid does. You can try. Your kid's really into music that you're not into. You can try to enjoy it and try to appreciate it. You may never love it, and that's fine. Just make the effort, just to have the understanding. I've had some families where, they'll pull out the music and say, all right, you play a song that you like. You're 15. Now I'm going to play you a song I liked when I was 15. And your kid's like, oh my gosh, that's so corny. But we can talk about why we like the song, and how we find there are certain themes in their song. Like, okay, even though this music sounds corny to him or her, the theme is the same. The anger or the sadness or the fear or whatever it is, there's similar themes, the emotional themes that draw us to these. They're these universal themes that we all humans experience. And music has been expressing these throughout all our lifetimes. And maybe finding those as commonalities, maybe your kid starts to like the 80s new wave stuff. Who knows?
Who knows? This is LD Expert Live. I'm Jill Stowell, and we are speaking today with Kent Toussaint, founder of the Teen Therapy Center in Woodland Hills, California. And I want to talk a little bit, I just want to focus a little bit on students who have learning and attention challenges. At Stowell Learning Centers, we work with these amazing students with bright, creative, interesting thinking styles, but who also struggle socially or in school. At school, teens are expected to self-advocate and be independent, and they want to be, but until their learning challenges are corrected, they may need more support from their parents than they really want. And so, Kent, I wanted to talk about, or I wanted to have you talk about, when and how should parents jump in to support their kids, and when should they just let them figure it out on their own, especially in relation to kids who are struggling in school?
So I wish there was an easy checkmark answer for that, but it's going to depend on every family. That's when I think having that connection, being in tune with your kid, helps you understand that. I think it's important that we don't always rescue our kids. Mm-hmm. Everyone has this vision, like, I'm going to get my kid to a good college, but no one really identify what a good college is. There's only over 4,000 universities in this country. There are a lot of great colleges, but you want to get into a good college, and I want my kid to do well. But again, our kids can't be optimized, so they're going to make mistakes. And making a mistake at 13 or 17 is a really good experience to have when they're in a safe environment in the family. So I would say always offer the emotional support. Be there for them emotionally, and say, hey, do you want help with this? Can I help you? Do you need support? Do you want a tutor? Hey, I'm pretty good at trigonometry. I can help out with that. We can get you a tutor, whatever that is. And ask your kid, are they willing to talk to their their teachers? Sometimes you have to step in. How do you identify that? It's being in tune with your kid. Is your kid so over their head they don't know? Sometimes you do have to step in. But is the stepping in making things worse? Getting your kid, I talk about this all the time, and especially with the grades. And a lot of parents clutch their pearls when I say this, but I really mean this. I believe this is totally true. I would much rather have your kid graduate high school with a 2.0 GPA and have a great relationship with you than a 4.5 GPA and feel like she's never good enough. Feel like she's not, going to succeed, that she's disappointing everyone. That 2.0 GPA kid can easily go to community college and do great, transfer to a 4 university, and have a wonderful career and a very happy life. I've seen it happen time and time again. That kid with a 4.5 GPA who never feels good enough is a workaholic, possibly going to drugs and alcohol to cope, has unhealthy relationships. That kid is not as likely to thrive as the 2.0 GPA kid. And you may say, but wait, the 4.5 GPA gets them to Harvard, gets them to this school, but again, it doesn't really make a difference. It's matters how you do college. CSUN is our local college, and it's a wonderful university. People all over the country want to go to CSUN, but here the local in the San Fernando Valley, like, Northridge, I don't want my kid to go there, just because of the local school. It's easier to get in because we're local. It's a really good school, and people go there and have thriving careers. But again, what's more important? And I've had this question in many workshops. I'll have everyone stand up and I'll say, okay, everyone, if you have met your full potential in life, remain standing. And everyone, but like 3 people will sit down, and the 3 people look around like, oh, maybe I haven't reached my full potential, because we never do. We all fall short. All of us could have done more with our careers. All of us could have had more rich personal lives. But we're good enough, and we're thriving, we're doing okay. And it's important, I think more important, to help teach our kids how to bounce back from falls. And we're so afraid of our kids falling, but let your kid fall down, let them stumble. There's very few stumbles that you can't recover from. If you're going to prison for 20 years, it's hard to recover from that. But if you get a C in algebra or a D or an F, there's mechanisms to recover from those things. But the most important thing is to have that relationship where your kid is not feeling shamed by you. Your kid is not feeling rejected by you, because then they will start shaming and rejecting themselves. And they'll project that onto everything else. And they'll always see shame and failure. And they'll just view their life through the lens of failure. And I think it's important that we view life through the lens of resiliency. Okay, because we've all messed up. Okay, we've messed up. We've fallen short. We've had setbacks. All right, let's figure this out. Let's solve this problem. Let's rebound. And sometimes that's the arm around the shoulder and the hug and say, it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this.
And I've sort of heard this theme throughout that, we've got to stumble, we've got to make mistakes, and actually that's how the brain learns. I feel like everything I've learned is by messing it up first. Yeah. So, we do have to be there with a great connection for them to fall back on, but also allow them to make mistakes and figure it out, because that is actually how that brain
absolutely
gets to develop.
And I think also that's us modeling how to stumble. As parents, we stumble all the time. I make mistakes. I lose my cool when I shouldn't, or I mess up something, or I tell my kid I'm going to do this, and like, oh my God, we can't do it now because this happened. I let my kid down. We've all done that, and that's okay. But now we get to model for a kid an apology. And an apology is not, I'm wrong, you're right. That's not an apology. An apology is, you're hurting. I was a part of that, and I feel for you, and I have empathy for you, and I want to help repair this. That's much more of a collaborative, coming together approach than I'm right, you're wrong. Just like, the boy hits his big sister and he's like, all right, apologize to your sister. That's not an apology. I'm sorry. Okay. That's you're not really teaching your kid, empathy. You're teaching you're wrong, so you should feel shame. So I think it's important that we model for our kids apologies, empathy, hey, I've messed up, hey, I had this setback. This is what I'm doing to recover from that setback. And I think the more we model for that for our kids, the more they go, oh, okay, so a setback it's not a death sentence. It's just a setback.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Let's check back in with Lauren and our viewers quickly here before we wrap up.
Yes. So we have Mandy asking, how do you deal with random or pointless lying?
Oh, well, I'll tell you. Let me tell you something about teenagers. All teenagers lie to their parents. I lied to my parents. Anyone else lie to their parents when they were kids? Here's another fun fact. All adults lie too. We're just better at it. We're more judicious with our lying. And some of you may think, I don't lie. I'll tell you exactly how you lie. All of us have called in sick when we weren't sick. And many of us, let's say you go to your mother-in-law's house who cannot cook, and she makes a full meal, and it's the liver casserole with Velveeta cheese melted on it and some other disgusting thing on it. And it's a family tradition, and she serves you a plate, and you go, that's delicious. Thank you. Because telling her the truth that she can't cook and her food is disgusting is not really going to help anyone. It's going to make things a lot worse. So kids lie for the same reasons, because they want to do something. They know you don't want it. And if you don't find out, everyone's happy. So it's not that your kid is evil or wrong or bad. It's just they are experimenting with with lying. So when you catch your kid in a lie, don't set them up for more lies. For example, this is the question you should not ask. Have you done your homework? The answer is always yes. Or do you have more homework? The answer is always no. The question should be, please show me your homework and show me the agenda so I can see that they're all connected. So when you set your kid up to lie, they'll lie impulsively without even thinking. And now they got to keep lying to keep the lie going to make sure they don't get in trouble. So they keep digging that ditch. If you know your kid is lying, just say the fact, I know these are the facts. I know you're not telling the truth. Let's talk about this. If you get lost in the, how dare you lie to me? I am your parent. You get lost in this quagmire of that can't be resolved instead of dealing with homework or getting to bed on time or whatever that is. You can express, I don't like it when you lie. It hurts my feelings when you lie. But getting mad and getting dramatic about it doesn't help. Also, we have to make sure that we're not lying to our kids. So if you're talking to grandma about something sensitive and they hear something about it, it's like, oh no, we were talking about gardening, and they know you weren't talking about gardening. That's the kind of thing. If you do that, you're giving them permission to, hey, if I think mom or dad can't handle this, I just need to lie about this, because you're telling them is, I don't think you can handle this. I'm going to lie to you about this.
Yeah, we sometimes think our kids aren't noticing what we're doing, but unfortunately, they're noticing everything.
They do.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a great conversation. This has been so fun. Parents, if you would like an additional resource or you have additional questions about kids or teens, we have our private Facebook group, Mom Squad. That is a Facebook group of parents of kids and teens with learning and attention challenges. We post questions, members post questions for other members to get advice from the group. So we encourage you to join. I also have several resources related to learning and attention challenges, one of them on executive function, which we've been talking about in today's show. We also have dyslexia resources, auditory processing. And so that is another place to connect with other parents. And again, this Thursday, because I'm very excited about it, this Thursday is our peace meeting. That's our parent support group. So I encourage you to join us. That is Thursday, June 17th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Again, we're going to be talking about processing skills in the brain and doing some demos and some simulations. So I really look forward to seeing you all there. Go to stowellcenter.com/peace to get the Zoom link to join us live and get your questions answered. Really looking forward to that Thursday. So I'll see you all there.
Thank you, Lauren. Kent, this last 18 months, there have been so many changes and so many unknowns. What last thoughts do you have for our viewers as we head into summer and then another transition when school fully opens in the fall?
Take the time to enjoy being with your kids, because school's going to start again. We're all going to get locked into our routines, and the routines are important, but not as important as the relation with our kids. Your relation with your kids is important, as important as food and water and air. There's so much of our relationships. Relationships are either going up or they're going down. And so, for example, divorce is most relationships end in divorce or marriages, over 50%. And there's a lot of reasons why. Here's one reason why. is two people come together, they finish each other's sentences, they laugh at other's jokes, they're in love, they think everything's great, they fall in love, they get engaged, they get married, they start having kids, this is great, it's wonderful, and they start having kids, and they have more kids, and then they go, you know what, I've got a lot to do, we've got the career, we got the novel to write, we got to handle all this stuff, so let's put our relationship on the back burner. It'll be there, it'll be there, it'll be there. I got to focus on the kids, this and that. Well, 10 years goes by, and we've lost connection with that spouse, and to the point where we don't even understand who that person is anymore. Why do you breathe that way? Why do you think that way? And it's irritating and frustrating. And finally, they bicker to stay connected. And they bicker until someone crosses the line, does something that's inexcusable, and says, all right, we're out. And you divorce. And it's painful, and the whole family suffers for it. But the same thing happens with our kids. We put our relationship with our kids on the back burner because homework's got to get done, and baseball, and piano practice, and bar mitzvah school, and all these other things. And we don't take the time to just connect, which is why we wanted kids in the first place. So while there are a lot of important things to do, spend time with your kids, quality time where you enjoy, they enjoy being with you, you enjoy being with them. And, you have to, figure out what they like to do. You'll be more adaptable than they will. So make sure you do things that they enjoy. And you will find that they reciprocate, they trust you, they feel safe with you, and when it's really intense and they need help, they'll come to you because they feel safe. They'll do that before they go to their friends. And that's what's going to help nurture a relationship with your kids that will last a lifetime, that will satisfy you.
Absolutely. In fact, my husband and I just got back from Nashville, where we spent the weekend with our kids and had a ball. So, yes, that connection and relationship is the most important thing and a real joy as you go through.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, it has been such fun chatting with you today, Kent. Thank you so much for sharing your passion and all of your incredible insights for teens and their parents. I want to share the contact information here for Kent and Teen Therapy Center. Go to the website for Teen Therapy Center for information about their services and how to get help for your teen. And Kent has quick video tips on teens on the website there, and they are really helpful. So be sure and check that out. Keep an eye on our social media because we'll be posting all of this contact information for you there in just a few minutes. This is LD Expert Live, your place for answers and solutions for learning disabilities, dyslexia, and attention challenges. We're live every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. Next Tuesday, we are so privileged to welcome Sarah Ward, a real expert in helping students improve executive function. She has practical tools that you can start implementing immediately with your kids. You are not going to want to miss this. So be sure and join us next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Stowell Learning Centers are open for both on-site and remote sessions and screenings. We work with children and adults doing targeted brain training to permanently eliminate struggles with dyslexia, auditory processing, attention, and learning so that students can become independent learners and thrive in school. We are having so much fun with our remote and on-site students already this summer with our summer theme, Blast Off to Learning. If you would like a free consultation for yourself or your child, give us a call or visit our website at stowellcenter.com. Thank you again, Kent, for sharing with us today. And thank you all of you who have been sharing and subscribing and joining us either live or on the replay every week. We appreciate you, and we will see you next week.